What are we doing today?
A movie review.
And what movie?
Drop.
Okay. So, Eric, what do you think about the beginning of the movie?
I thought it really, set everything up well. I really like how you feel very sympathetic for the main character because, of course, all that she's trying to do is just trying to protect her kid. And ultimately, any good parent, of course, would want to protect their kid. And so therefore, like, you instantly feel sympathy for her and you understand why that she's doing what she's doing. And you understand that she's put in a really, really tough spot.
I don't even think it's just a tough spot that she was put in. I truly think it was a position where it's either A, you go along with it, or you find a way to manipulate it. And we see it a little bit later in the movie when when the person that was sending all the drops was like, I'm playing chess, you're playing, I don't remember what other game. It was like Connect Four, Yahtzee. And you really showed that in the end, you really see that she was also playing the game of chess with him. And she actually developed a very good strategy towards the middle of it that actually really allowed her to win the actual confrontation type of thing.
Yep, and about that, jumping ahead because, of course, Taylor here was talking about the beginning, but I especially loved how at the very end, around the third act, like about how she actually tricked the main villain into like its own game, and what I also loved about it is that you think one character is the villain, and to be honest, I was really, really convinced that this one character was the villain. But then it pulls like a complete 180 on you. It's like, nope, psych, that's not the villain. This character is.
Well, I think that definitely in the beginning it laid out a few possible people. It wasn't just, one or two people. We had like three different people that was possible the villains. We had the guy that was there for another date. You didn't really get the vibe that he was evil, but you also got the vibe that he was just someone that was manipulative. I definitely got the I want to control this scenario. And then you get the guy that she kept on bumping into. I think it was a lot of just the constant interaction with that person of bumping into them that made it where it was very suspicious. But it never gave us really a whole lot other than she was kind of picking up the vibes and was like pushing the vibes onto the crowd in a sense during it. I didn't get the actual vibes from the character. And then, the bartender and the server, he was clearly gay and he was over the top. Everything he talked about was just above and beyond. His personality was a little too much for that position that he was in. Just way too much for that position. My question, how did he get hired? But there's a few different other characters that, we got the vibe that, it was just suspicious. And I like that it kept it open to a lot of different people instead of narrowing it down to just one or two people. How do you think the overall physics of the movie played out? Like how everything, we had people flying in the air, we had, a person flopping to the ground out of the skyscraper. We had, people getting shot and stabbed. the overall how all the actual realisticness of it was.
Now, I'm by no means a physicist or anything, so that's out of my ballpark. So I guess I didn't really think about that all too much. And now there are some movies where I know for a fact that that could not work out, even though I'm not a physicist. Like a good example, completely different kind of movie, but in Sonic the Hedgehog 3, when Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles jump out of the helicopter without a parachute, and then they land on their feet as, like as if nothing really happened without any major injuries. And now I do understand in that movie that they did that because it looks cool. And so therefore I can let that slide. But ultimately the point is, movies are more often than not, they're not trying to be they're not trying to be scientific documentaries. Ultimately, they are there to entertain.
Absolutely. I mean, there are certain things there that someone like me that really focuses on the realism. And there are certain things that didn't feel like it would happen in real life. You can definitely tell in the third act when they're in the home fighting that how they were flying through the air when they were thrown, it wasn't a natural. Like, you can tell that there was cables and all that was done with it. It wasn't a natural curve of a fly. It was very flat and then drop, which to me kind of takes away a little bit away from it for me, because I'm like, well, now I'm hyper focused on how real is this? What is this scenario actually possible? And to me, that kind of ruins the movie a little bit. I kind of laughed whenever the guy fell out of the skyscraper and landed on the sign down below. You can tell that it was a bunch of like heavyweight bags. It wasn't the person, and that kind of actually upset me because I kind of did want to see the gore of the blood going everywhere.
Now, to be fair, I'm pretty confident that this was PG-13, and so therefore, if they did that, they instantly would have lost their PG-13.
That is very true. That is very true. Although, was it PG-13? I don't know for sure. Let me check that real quick.
Pretty confident that it was.
We're going to get John, our video and editor, to check on that.
Yeah, I was about to check on my own phone, but...
Yeah.
It was a rated R thriller crime.
Oh, really? So it was?
Yes.
Rated R?
Okay.
Yes.
So they definitely could have made it a lot more gory.
Are you sure that you checked the right movie?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay, I'm just gonna double check myself.
No, you're right. It's PG-13.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, I showed up with like 2 different movies.
Oh.
Okay.
That's Google for you. Google will give you an answer, but not always the correct answer.
Yeah, like you have to be very precise.
Yes, you really do. But back to the movie.
Drop and drop.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense. 2 very similar names. So let's make sure that we're not talking about The Drop, we're talking about the movie Drop. Which, ironically, a guy definitely did drop out of the building.
I mean, that may or may not be the reason why that they called it that.
Nope. They called it Drop, and I believe this is why. I am not the director, I'm not the producer of it, I'm not the writer of it. But I think it's because it was called Drop because they were using iPhones, and with iPhones, you can drop messages into people, and it's called Drop. And typically when people do this, it's just pictures, and it's automatically like saved into your phone, and you can't tell who actually did it. So that kind of made it more suspicious because it made it where you did not know who was doing it based off of messages. You just got a username. But we kind of have to start calling this towards the end. So tell me, what did you think about the ending of it?
Well, it definitely had a very spoilers. It had definitely a very happy ending, which I mean, more often than not, films like this tend to not have a happy ending, just to enhance the mood a bit. So I mean, and so I mean, it was nice to see the happy ending, and I mean, ultimately, I am definitely glad that there was a happy ending.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I would probably felt really horrible if the ending was a result of a kid dying. That would have ruined my whole entire night, probably my whole entire week, not gonna lie.
it definitely would have been a pretty gutsy move.
Oh, it would have been. And that I don't think a lot of filmmakers are willing to step into that realm.
And if they do, it's a big risk, whether or not if the audience actually is going to accept that.
Absolutely. So what's your overall rating that you'll give it and your overall view of it?
So I know Woman in the Yard and this, while they're similar movies, just ultimately this I feel like went at a better pace throughout the entire movie. And so therefore I will give this a higher rating than I would for, Woman in the Yard simply because of that. And now I am by no means saying, oh my goodness, it's the greatest movie of this entire year. I definitely enjoyed it. I can go back and rewatch it. So I would say about an 8.
There's definitely some cringe points that made pretty good jokes out of it. But I would not give those jokes like a comedy level.
Right.
But they definitely gave some good jokes that made me laugh or gave me a little chuckle type of thing, made me smile. But those were in the beginning. I would say the overall storytelling was fairly rounded. I definitely say the storytelling could have done a little bit better, but overall, I think it was a rounded storytell. It was a story. On the other hand, I definitely felt like the physics threw me off. They definitely felt like they could have done better. And I kind of wish it did have a little bit of gore in it. But of course, with it being PG-13, you couldn't do that. Overall, I would have probably given it a 7.5 for me.
But yeah, sorry, I totally didn't mean to cut you off there. But I mean, sometimes you will be surprised by what you can get away with in a PG-13 movie. Like, I know it may not have to do with gore, but in the movie Titanic, I was really surprised that they got away with having like a nude girl. I was really surprised.
So
I'm like, how did they get away with that in a PG-13 movie?
Well, she wasn't completely nude.
She actually was.
What?
Yeah,
like they showed the actual parts.
Yeah, like her boobs and her.
You need to check that because I do not remember that.
Yeah, there was that scene.
Do you remember that, John?
No, but I know we're getting off topic.
Yes, we are. But ultimately the point is there's that scene where Jack is drawing her and she's completely nude.
Fair enough.
But that's besides the point.
So I think what we both say is it's a 7.5, 8. John, what would you give the rating?
A 6.5.
6.5. So roughly about a 7.5 average, 7.25 average.
So it sounds like out of all three of us, I was the kindest to it.
Yes.
And John, not so much.
All right. Well, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed.